How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all doing wonderful. Hope your new year is off to a great start. Today, I'm going to show you how my investment portfolio has performed over the past month. I'm going to share all of the dividend income that I've received and also show you how it's performed over the past year. And ultimately, my goal here with these videos is to give you guys complete transparency into what it's actually like to invest in the stock market, share with you how I personally like to invest, and really, I hope that this can inspire you in some way to start your own investing journey. I truly do believe that investing in the stock market is one of the easiest and best ways to build wealth over time. And if you play your cards right, you'll be able to achieve financial freedom and live the life that you truly deserve. It's certainly not going to happen overnight, but just getting on the path is a step in the right direction. All right, so currently the value of the portfolio is just north of $46,000. And over the past month, it started out pretty good and then it took a little bit of a dip. So you can see here that to kick off December, things were going great. And then from early to mid-December, we took a little bit of a nosedive, then recovered slightly towards the end, and then to close out the year, took a little bit of a dip again. So the month of December was actually in the red. We lost about $465 overall, or about a 1% decrease in the portfolio. Now looking at some of the pies here in my portfolio, technology did the worst over the past month. You can see they were in the red 6%, and this is one of my highest weighted pies, so that certainly hurts. But if we click into here, we can see that my top technology companies, Broadcom, Apple, and Microsoft respectively, those were all in the red. Broadcom especially over 8% in the red. Apple down over 5%. So certainly not the best month for technology. This definitely drove my portfolio down, but I'm really not worried about those companies because if you zoom out over the lifetime of this portfolio, those have been actually the best performing companies that I own. So I'm not going to take the results from 1 month and base any decisions off of that. I really base decisions off of what happens in the long term. But another poorly performing area was the consumer sector. So pretty much every company I have in here was in the red as well. Costco down over 7%, Home Depot and Cisco about 2%. So consumer, technology, not the best month overall. But one thing that did shine was finance. Some of the banks did pretty well. JP Morgan, for example, they were up over 5%. BlackRock, about 5% as well. And Ally probably performed the best, over 11% from them. But I have very minimal holdings here. It's really a non-factor for me anyways. But it seems like for the most part, banks, financial institutions did quite well over the past month. But how I really like to gauge the market is I just like to look at the ETFs. So something like Vanguard's VTI that looks at the entire stock market. For me, that's sort of the baseline. So they were up about 0.66%. So this portfolio has performed worse than the overall market. But now I want to look at the entire year and just see kind of what went on overall, sort of like a year in review. And then we'll get into the dividends. But a pretty good year overall, I would say. You know, we started out in January through March and April here. Pretty stagnant, I would say. And then we had a really big drop off in early April. But then the stock market pretty much recovered and just kept going up and up into where we are today. In fact, over the past year, we gained roughly $6,500, which is about a 16% increase. So honestly, that's really not too bad over the period of a year. Now, again, I do want to compare how I performed to the VTI fund, just sort of like as a baseline. And we can see that VTI was up about 17.5%. So once again, throughout the past year, my portfolio, you could say, underperformed the market by about 1.5%. And so actually one of my strategies going forward into the new year is I'm going to start investing a little less into individual companies and directing more money towards an ETF like VTI. Now, I'll definitely still hold individual companies that I really believe in and I think have really good futures. But there's some companies that I own, some in the consumer and the energy sector, that have really been stagnant over the past few years. So I'll be looking to direct some of that money out and shift it more into ETFs. But overall, if we check it out, consumer was in the red about 2.7%. Nike, Colgate, Home Depot, and Costco didn't perform that great. I think just a down year people are trying to save money, so it kind of makes sense for consumer to be down. But technology performed very, very well, up 25%. Broadcom especially crushed it this past year, up 51%. That's absolutely insane. Then you had Apple and Microsoft, 11 and 13% respectively. So yeah, really good year for technology. Now let's hop into the dividends and see what we actually got paid out in December. All right, well, we start with Aflac at a whopping $16.26. Then Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceutical Company, they paid $7.34. ExxonMobil Energy Company, they paid $3.84. Then we moved to Eli Lilly at $2.77. Microsoft, they paid a total of $2.47 this month. Then 3M, $1.93 from them. Energy Company, Consolidated Edison, $1.23. Stag Industrial, this is actually a monthly paying company. And this month, they paid out $2.68. Probably the most popular fast food chain in the world, McDonald's, $3.74 from them. Coca-Cola paid out $4.15. Realty Income Corp, a very popular company for dividend-focused investors, but they paid $6.41. And just like Stag, this is a monthly paying company. Home Depot is next at $4.92. Then Waste Management, $2.52 from them. Next is BlackRock. And again, they had a very good month, but they were able to pay out $8.03 in dividends. Then Vanguard's VYM ETF, they paid $16.94. A total of $14.82 came in from the VTI ETF from Vanguard. And then we actually have another ETF. This is SPHD, and this happens to be a monthly paying ETF as well, but they paid $10.37. And then we got a bunch of different payouts from BIP, but total it comes to $6.97. And Broadcom, they paid out $8.44. And that's actually going to wrap up our dividend payments from December. So when we total everything up, the total comes to $125.83. And for the entire year, that is going to put us over $1,000 in dividends earned, $1,042 to be exact. So that's kind of a milestone for me. I came close last year at $998, but with compound interest and these companies being able to increase their dividends year after year, we were able to go over the $1,000 mark, which I'm pretty proud of. I haven't been able to invest as much as I would have liked to the past year or two. Sometimes things in life just come up that you have to prioritize, like getting married, buying a house, all the fun expenses that comes with that. But very proud of the fact that we were able to crack that $1,000 mark. And one thing I'm just going to put on the screen here is I do like to project these dividend payments out into different time frames. So for example, what these dividends pay out from a yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, hourly, and then also hourly if you're just looking at like a 40-hour work week. And so here you can see from last year compared to this year, about $79 of an increase, 22 cents more every single day. And if you kind of want to look at it from a 40-hour work week, you could say this is roughly a 4-cent raise. So just kind of a unique way to look at it. You can definitely do the same thing for your own portfolio as well. Just kind of gives you a little bit of a different perspective. But me, I'm personally pretty happy with how we've done over the past year. By the way, if you do want this template, I'll put a link in the description, but you can just click on file and then make a copy, and then you can just start to input your own numbers in here. But with that said, that's going to wrap up the video. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to check this out. Let me know down in the comments how you've done over the past year. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for stopping by, and until next time, take it easy.